Lost Soul Aside, the upcoming action-adventure game from Studio Alt-Zero and being published by Sony for both the PS5 and PC. Now, this is your first time hearing about Lost Soul Aside, or if you don't know the original story of this game, let me go ahead and fill you in real quick. Lost Soul Aside was originally announced back in 2016 as basically a passion project from a solo developer named Bing Yang. And when he had uploaded the trailer for the game, everyone was quick to call out the fact that the game looks very much like a Final Fantasy with the combat of a Devil May Cry, which is something that Bing Yang himself had hinted on due to the fact that he is a very big fan of Final Fantasy games, but also at the same time, he loves the combat from games such as Devil May Cry and the Ninja Gaiden series, which is why he ended up wanting to create an indie game that kind of brought those two worlds together. And with how the game ended up blowing up on YouTube, it had caught the attention of a couple of different investors, with one who ended up coming out on top, with that being Sony. And when Sony entered a partnership with Bing Yang to bring the game to fruition, they actually ended up giving him a team to work on the game. So now it was no longer a solo development, which also meant that the scope of the game itself ended up increasing, which is why it ended up taking about 9 to 10 years for us to get to this point where the game is now officially going to be releasing in just a couple of weeks. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been following this game for the last 9 years from every trailer that they release, and the game just keeps looking better and better. If you're someone who's been following this game for the last 9 years, at the very least, I feel very confident that once it officially drops on August 29th, we're probably not going to be disappointed at all. Well, at least fingers crossed. I genuinely hope we don't, because we've been waiting so long. Yeah, it would suck if that was the case. But from everything that we've seen, the game honestly looks really polished. Combat looks fun. The game looks gorgeous, which, let me go ahead and remind y'all real quick that according to the developer, and I guess maybe Sony themselves as well, they're not classifying this as a AAA game. They're classifying this as a AA game due to the fact that technically this is still an indie game. Sony isn't the one developing it, nor do they technically own the studio that's developing it. They basically just ended up providing funding through the China Hero Project to kind of help get games off the ground. China Hero Project has helped bring games such as Fist, you know, the game with the rabbit with the robotic arm, and another game called Anno Mutantorum. Anno, from what I remember, is the real-time strategy game, so I'm not 100% sure which one is Mutantorum. If it's an expansion or just a different Anno altogether. But usually this is done to help bring indie games to life. So in a way, you might want to consider Lost Soul Aside as an indie game rather than as some super big budget game, which for an indie game, from everything that we've seen, this is amazing. Now, we touched a little bit on some of the systems that we've seen. The game actually has a stamina system in place, which kind of disappointed me a little bit initially because of the fact that if you're going for games that are like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, those don't go with stamina, especially for these type of fast-paced games. But at the very least, it's not tied to combat itself. It's more so tied to your defense. So whenever you're dodging or blocking, it seems like you can't just block forever, which I guess is fine. The game wants you to basically master perfect dodge, and I want to say perfect block. I feel like I didn't really notice any like perfect blocks per